So team, I just wanted to go over what we're gonna go over today. Wait, go over what we're gonna do today. I'm sorry. Okay, let's figure this out. So team, we're starting a little bit later today because we just wanted to make sure we can all be in the room together. But the main topics that we're gonna talk about today is absorption this morning. So we're gonna talk about the ladder of engagement and how do we get how do we get all the people that we're getting from the movement or from the activities of the movement or the large actions into the organization. So today, actually, if we could frame today, it's going to be about, we call it hybrid models, but it's just another way to talk about different organizational models for absorption. That's essentially what we're talking about today. Then after we do the session on absorption, there's going to be a little exercise around eliciting the best absorption strategies. Then we're going to move into talking about what we keep calling movement DNA. What is the DNA of the movement, which is part of what we're considering this hybrid model between structure and momentum. So what are some of the best practices? And we're actually going to go over models from other organizations, not necessarily only movements, but how people are organizing in the open source software movement, and how people are organizing in AA and other forms of organizational forms and structures. Just because at the end of the day, if you're noticing, we're not necessarily letting you all know this is the way to do everything. It's more like there are distinctions and figure out how to operate around them. So that's really the flow of our training. Then we're gonna go to lunch at 12, come back at 1, and then we're gonna do mass training. We're gonna do a whole session on actually the science of mass training, which I know a lot of people have been wanting to talk about. So we're gonna talk about. It's really gonna get really intense. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be about the numbers. Who likes the numbers? Raise your hand if you like numbers. Good. All my structure people there. Okay, good. And then at 3 p.m. we're gonna end, and my hope is that we can have at least 2 hours or 2 hours and a half, so that we can have the break, as Kate has said. And some of us are gonna watch the World Cup. Some of us are maybe gonna play a World Cup game here.
Yeah.
And Nicole is gonna be part of my team.
I'm gonna be watching. I'm gonna be on that team.
On the watching team. Don't worry. We'll make sure we get the beers here because but yes, cheering for Argentina all the way. Okay. And then we're gonna come back from dinner, and we either going to be talking about what are some of the most common problems with the model, or we're gonna talk about decentralized team structure. We don't know yet. It depends on how the conversation of this morning happens. Is that okay? We really want to be led by your needs and meeting you all halfway. So give a high five to the person to the left and to the right and tell them absorption. Okay. So, I want you to do, let's do a Belinda. Okay. Sometimes it happens. Part of the training team.
I was just trying to be good.
So I want you to close your eyes for 1 second. Close your eyes. Close your eyes for 1 second. Done. And I want you to imagine that you're either in your campaign office, in your place where you have your meetings at your university, whatever is your place or location of work, or movement work. And I want you to really visualize that there's 20 people that are out there. And you just walk into the office or the place, and you just saw 20 people, and they're all telling you, oh my God, I just saw you in TV of what you did, and I want to join whatever you're doing. I want you to, there's 20 people there, they've been waiting, they're forming a line, you just got there in the morning, and my question to you is, what would you do with them? How would you integrate them? Let's open our eyes, and let's hear some thoughts. What would you do? Curtis?
Point them to whoever our core team is in that area. So individuals.
So you will send them and say, here's the phone number of one of our leaders, call them so they can tell you what to do.
Or I might set up one-on-one with them first and then back with them.
So you set up 20 one-on-ones.
Well, no, yeah.
No, I'm just listening to you, right?
Yeah, 20 people, no.
Okay. So you, yes?
I think the first thing I would do is I would talk to them and ask them what moved you and how did you come down, why did you come to participate?
As a group.
And however, I think you could do it as a resort individually.
Okay. What else would we do? Yes, sir?
I'd bring them into the voter engagement campaign we're about to launch.
So you would invite them to a meeting?
Yeah, we're going to do weekly trainings to bring people into the campaign.
So you invite them for the weekly
Invite
training.
them to weekly training, and then it's like we train them and then we send them out to the neighborhood.
And when is the training? Is it like every day? Is it like
It's
every week, every month?
Every Wednesday evening for the
Every
summer.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Is this true or are you making?
No, it's true, yeah. You can come if you want.
Good absorption process. He's like, are you coming, yes or no? I don't know. The structure, people always getting the yeses. Okay. Okay, now let's close your eyes again. Close your eyes again. Now I want you to imagine that there's 200 people in the morning. And they're all there, and you can see in their eyes the excitement. They look at you and they're like, please, I want to join you. Tell me what to do. I feel the cause that you're talking about. How can I join you? How can I participate? But I want to participate now. What would you do? Open your eyes. Yes, sir.
Start rapping.
So you start rapping. There's the 200 people there. Some of them might leave. Some of them might get more excited. So my people might not be happy. You know, this is broad popular support.
What if it was cumbia?
But then after you rap into a cumbia song. We gotta collaborate. We gotta do something. But after you rap, what else would you do with it?
I would ask if I could have all their phones.
So you collect their
With
information.
information. And I would ask them to get into groups, and I would ask them to introduce themselves to each other. And
So you
say-
pretty much will start doing the training there.
Yeah, we should do something like that. Cost down, I don't know.
Okay, what else? What else will other people do? Yes.
I would hopefully ask them to like take action on a campaign that's already in existence
So
and
you,
direct them to a website where there's more information after I've collected their information.
so the collection, pointing out to an action maybe coming up. We're doing a march on Saturday or any day. Great. What else will other people do? Okay, close your eyes again. Close your eyes again. Take a deep breath, take a deep breath. Now you are getting your coffee. Some of us in Dunkin' Donuts, if you're from Massachusetts, or others in Starbucks, or some others in La Bodega, if you're in another neighborhood. And you're getting your coffee, but you're stressed out of your mind. Because you didn't sleep last night, you were late in the action in the meeting. You're going crazy, you're like, oh my God, I gotta get in and pick up some stuff at the office or whatever. Then I gotta go to another meeting, so I don't really have time. I just gotta get in and get out. And as you're walking into the office, now you find that there's 2,000 people outside. There's 2,000 people, and now they're not waiting for you. They're talking to each other. And they're asking who is in charge of this thing? Who did this movement thing? And they want to join, and they're a little rowdy because they've been waiting for you. What would you do? Open your eyes.
I don't know what
Yeah!
Freak out.
Freak out. What else? Yes, Jack.
I would call other people on my team.
Other people on your team. Great. And then afterwards, what would you do?
I think having them break out into like, I think if our team members like break out, because 2,000 is just too many.
So you break down what your teams work. Yes, sir.
I would use the 200 people that showed up a little while ago, but I made them all captains for immediate action. And then we would go down to the Capitol and just like make our presence known just in bodies alone, just to get some sort of attention. Because like, this keeps on happening, so I want to get folks ready for the next time.
I'm not going to tell you to close your eyes again, but yes, you're getting the pattern.
But that maybe, but also before I would brief them on what was happening, just in case anybody tried to interview them,
Yeah.
so that people knew what was up,
Yeah.
what the point of everything was.
Now, let me ask you another quick question. What do you think are some of the problems that you might encounter already with all that amount of people?
2,000?
Yeah, like, well, people want to start taking charge.
People want to have autonomy. What else?
Not everyone is not being dedicated to nonviolence.
People have different methods or strategies. Some people say violence, people say nonviolence. It could be like, we're mad. Because actually, probably what got 2,000 people there, it was a big trigger event or some kind of drama conflict. And actually, people are not just waiting to sit down and waiting for you to give them the talk. They're actually very mad. So we don't even know what kind of emotional state they're coming in. Can we take a deep breath? The reason why Paul and I are recommending that if some of you that want to go through this process is take a lot of time for planning is because a lot of the game of planning is a game of anticipation. So if I can say anything around planning is that planning equals anticipation. That's the whole, it's not like you're going to plan and the plan is going to happen. You're technically just anticipating for problems that will happen. And absorption is just an anticipation of large amounts of participation and how to do that. So another way to say absorption is to think that absorption equals digestion. And as your movement has a good digestive system to digest all the calories, aka the people, that it needs to get stronger and energetic. So let's talk about this. Sorry, I told the biology stuff. I already told you about this. So then the question becomes, once we have mass movement, what do we do with all these people? And as you're noticing, we do the strong movement organization, we do the action, we go over again, and then we try to absorb, and I put a vacuum here, so that's metaphor from my young years in my house, and we absorb it. This is the map of the dream movement in early 2009. Just a very few organizations across the country, right? Kevin is right here. And very, very, very few. Julieta's over there, just key leaders of the movement. This is late 2010. 16 months of huge growth. And the reason, and I'll tell you more in mass training, is that actually this happened because we copy the strategy that the Obama campaign did to absorb the momentum they had. And we learned that through Marshall Gans. So we really copy it in our own cumbia way, because we make everything musical, and make that happen. And then we build it into organizational structure. So it is interesting what could be done when we do massive amounts of absorption. Of course it generated all kinds of problems, don't let me get you wrong. Because we didn't know this, we just were doing it without knowing what the heck we were doing. So this is just a picture so you see what absorption can actually do. So if you go to page, let's see. If you go to page 115, can somebody tell me? 115. If you go to page 115, if you go to page 115, you will see more of a reading on this, but the ladder of engagement is our framework for absorption. It's the way that we think about how can we bring up people through the ladder of work. So we're going to go over it, but pretty much we start with people, and actually necessarily people start at different places. I just want to put it out there. People are at different levels of commitment, right? But we're putting here that there's some sort of beginning at an online action, and we're going to go over this, right? People signing a petition, getting your name signed, collecting. Then second, people take some sort of action, right? That either they come to a rally, they come to a meeting, they come to an event, they go to a protest. The difference between this and the NOI or other ladders of engagement is that after these two steps, we do something completely different, which is like now we move into mass training. And we're going to have a whole, this is so important. Most people do this. Are you noticing that most of us in the movement do 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 is really the levels that we're trying to create in this training? Mass training, we're going to talk a lot about this in about a second as well, and more deeper in the later session. And then after people go to mass training, then we do team formation and volunteer organizing. Right? So Paul, you want to say something about this?
There's a lot of ladder of engagements out there, and different organizing models have ladder of engagement. It's a great conceptual model. The difference is that this is a ladder of engagement for momentum, just like the exercise that Carlos was saying. It's specifically designed to get people to build a mass popular movement. And that's different because I've had lots of conversations about taking some of these ideas with Move On, and their ladder of engagement is very well developed around online. But it doesn't really, they're still in the early stages about how to take online and go to offline just to do basic action, right? So they're still really figuring that out. They're not that developed in that. What we're talking is an integration between online and then getting to a place where you have decentralized teams and activities all over the country that's coordinated by autonomously with the momentum of a whirlwind. And that's a really different framework of ladder of engagement.
Is the action offline or online?
The floats are always missing. That's good. Okay, so take action. This is just a picture from the Montgomery bus boycott, and a lot of the take action that people did on those stands were through mass meeting. Of course, not participating in the boycott on the buses and boycotting the buses by doing that, but also there were constantly mass meetings to engage people to what we call giving people the DNA of the movement. This is why we're doing this. This is the strategy. We gotta keep this boycott going. I mean, it lasted 11 months. 11 months, I think maybe more now. 13. I don't know. I forget what it is. Sorry, I'm going to my bus boycott. So taking action. There are multiple ways. We already went through this yesterday, right? All the ways for take action.
On the take action piece is that a lot of times in this ladder of engagement, it's taking action that is more about engaging lots of people to keep them going, okay? In instrumental or structured approach, a lot of times we don't do that because we feel like, what's the point? It takes so many people to get them together. Why in the hell would you just get them to go to a mass meeting every single night? It seems repetitive. In the Montgomery bus boycott, every single night they had a mass meeting at a church. And anybody who was interested in the campaign could go to that mass meeting every single night. Okay, but what it did is that there was fluctuations of momentum, and then people showed up. And a lot of people who weren't good organizers or weren't really, didn't have a lot of skills to do a lot of organization, but could participate in a lot of ways, showed up to those meetings every single night and got some level of direction about what was happening. And there was tens of thousands of people that were really committing to this boycott, walking for hours to get to work.
That was 50,000.
So they would show up to these mass meetings and get some sort of direction on what they were able to do. And a lot of times this is replicated in mass movements with like occupations where there's a place to show up. A lot of times in hunger strikes, right, there's a place where people sort of do a vigil, and there's like a common space. In the Clamshell Alliance model, the direct action movement model, there's a convergence center where people can always show up and take action in some form. They just show up to the convergence center, and everybody knows you can go there all the time, and that there's a mass meeting or there's a mass, some sort of mass action every single day.
Good. Let's talk about online action. This always, all of us know that there's a lot of ways to capture information online. Is that true? This is what I would say before we talk a lot about this. It's like it's really the biggest funnel to grab as many people as we can possible. Then the question becomes what we do with them. But it's really important. I think for most of us, what happens is that there is momentum sometimes that either we generate or other groups generate or an external event. And actually what online organizations have been able to do very well is to tap the momentum for resources. And the question that I always ask about this and that I'm reflecting a lot about is like, it's if we don't have the online mechanisms for absorption, then who else absorbs the momentum that we create? Because that's what I noticed a lot, like for example in the immigrant rights movement I noticed that Presente.org had a lot of online tools, and I always saw that in the Dream movement we were always doing stuff and they were always absorbing their list. And I don't know if anybody has gotten into a fight over a list here, online list. I'm sure nobody. But I think it's also a part of preparation before we create momentum, and we have the mechanisms to absorb people online, even for fundraising or for names. So,
I just want to say this. This is a huge issue in all of these hybrid models that we're talking about, is that after Birmingham, millions of people in the country were totally turned on by those dramatic images, okay? And they couldn't show up to the mass meetings at the churches in Birmingham, right? And a lot of times there wasn't an organization to put on a mass meeting in their local city. And they wanted to give, they wanted to donate. Where do they donate, right? Where do you even get any, where do they even find where to go, or how does the movement even keep them involved? And I had a personal experience about this because I was part of a coalition,